All right, ready to get started? Yeah? 9:15, let's go. All right, everyone, welcome to our talk on real-time collaboration and the future of web applications. I am Peter Hoyes, and I am the Chief Operating Officer and partner at Tag One Consulting. I'm responsible for day-to-day operations, including projects and clients in the team. And although I'm a mechanical engineer by degree, for the last 30 years, I've been basically bringing the internet in all its glory, sometimes not so much, to the masses. So I'm really passionate about open source tech, and ultimately, this is my very first Drupal talk, so I'm very excited to be here with you all. I'm joined today by Fabian, my partner in crime, who is the VP of Software Engineering at Tag One. And most of you already know who he is, so I'm not going to bother with a long introduction, but he's one of the best known names in Drupal. He's done, among many things, he's the Drupal 7 core committer and framework manager, and the co-creator of BigPipe and the new caching system in 8 and 9. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Tag One, we're known for being the #2 all-time contributor in Drupal. We have lots of folks that contribute a whole lot to the organization, and we're platinum sponsors of DrupalCon and a supporting partner of Drupal Association. And we also donate lots of resources to the DA to help run the Drupal.org websites and infrastructure and projects and all these things that basically help everyone build Drupal. So one big ask is that if you make money or profit or use Drupal in whole or work is in whole or in part due to Drupal, I ask that you contribute to the project financially if you can. Anyway, Tag One works with lots of technologies outside of Drupal, like Laravel and Framework, and we'll be touching Laravel and Symfony, and we'll be touching on some of our work in WordPress and Gutenberg editor, as well as the YJS real-time collaboration framework in our talk today. All right, that's a mouthful. So what we'll cover. This talk is sort of in 2 parts. I'll give the first one, and Fabian will do the second half. The first one's just really an overview quickly, and the second half will be a lot more technical nitty-gritty. In a little bit more detail, we're going to briefly touch on the types and degrees of collaboration that there are. We'll look at some of the underlying core features and functionality that are required to make good collaborative multi-user applications. We'll talk about some specific features and implementations in the context of a content management solution. We'll give some insight into how we integrate shared editing in Drupal and WordPress specifically. And we're going to dive into some of the challenges that come with shifting from a single user to a multi-user paradigm that supports multiple users collaborating. And lastly, we're going to talk about the collaborative capabilities that we feel are in reach and for a number of developers and applications. And we'll sort of touch a little bit on where we see things going in the future. If you have any questions during the talk, please put them in the chat, as Greg mentioned earlier, and just preface them with a Q on them so we can spot them very quickly. All right, at the end, we'll have a little quick Q&A. All right.
Yeah, this will be really cool because we'll also be demoing things, and I'm so excited for the demos to finally show off all this work we've been doing. And this would be really great. And also to give you some of the technical insights of things we've developed where we banged our heads. So yeah, that will be the second part. Now back to Peter. So excited to have you here. So great to join me today here and that we can do this talk together. So excited.
All right, so we're going to take a quick step back. Most of you know this all. It's pretty intuitive to you, but I'm just going to regurgitate it just to understand the progression. So we're going to look at the different ways that people collaborate online, not just the tools that we use, but how they all work. ultimately, collaboration is fundamental to how we all work, how we learn and how we teach. Working together is how most organizations get things done, right? So we've had wave after wave of technological advancements from, snail mail to phones and faxes, emails, instant messengers, and mobile. These technologies are integral to how we do stuff or how we get things done. And it's hard to imagine how we actually ever did anything before they existed. And we don't want to imagine what it was like without them. So, ultimately, the collaborative applications that we use, they reduce the cost of communicating with people. It makes it easier and faster to get things done. And ultimately, it kind of increases our productivity. So for instance, doctors still use beepers maybe, but now they get to do telemedicine on their mobile phones. Collaborative applications are critical to both a traditional workforce, those folks that go into an office, as well as companies that engage collaboratively with their vendors or their customers. But for remote workers, especially like for Tag One and many others out there that have distributed or virtual teams, without collaboration software, we couldn't do what we do. Before the coronavirus pandemic, 18% of global workers were 100% remote, and 52% of workers worked at least one day remotely. But now, post or in the middle of all of this, we have so many more people that are working from home more than ever. And it's essential that all organizations adopt applications that enable collaboration. And it's also essential for the applications to enable users to work remotely. So there are lots of ways and tools that we do stuff, and there are applications that help us. We use communication tools like chats and wikis and conferencing, and we sometimes combine those core-based communication tools into applications that facilitate coordination of things like project management or time tracking and online classes and so on. Let's see, yeah. So collaboration applications sort of range across a broad spectrum from synchronous to asynchronous. On the synchronous end, you're talking about real-time communications, and on the asynchronous end, they're more intermittent communications. And in the middle is something that we like to call synchronish, which is near real time or some kind of mix of the two things. So some classic examples are Zoom. Zoom is very synchronous. Not all meetings are collaborative, and yes, you can watch a meeting recording afterwards, but to be meaningfully participate in a collaboration on Zoom, you would probably want to be in real time in the conversation. Whereas in the middle, applications like Slack, they enable near real-time communications. We can interact back and forth, like I type you a message and you see it respond, probably when you get a subtle or obnoxious notification of some sort. Slack can get kind of close because, close to real time, but it's not quite the same as a video or a voice call. In Slack, you can't see what I'm typing until I type it, right? And ultimately, we can all come and go from those conversations and respond asynchronously when you're ready. So, there are applications that also blend different tools. Zoom has chat. Slack has video conferencing. It has voice. It has screen sharing. So, different types of collaboration lend themselves well to different things. And frankly, we all need to do a better job at, identifying when to use the right tool. We've all been in meetings where, that could have easily been an email, and vice versa. We've been in email threads that could have been a meeting. Ultimately, on the other end of the spectrum now, we've got intranets and knowledge sharing and things like Confluence, Jira, that are more asynchronous. We create and access information almost exclusively in an asynchronous format. So to stay in the know, either message streams or activity streams, you get notifications, but truly it is very asynchronous. So a great collaboration tool has to support the appropriate levels of interaction throughout the entire workflow process to be effective. So there are lots of tools. We have, Drupal, WordPress, Confluence, Jira, all these popular knowledge sharing, CMS tools, team collaboration tools. They've been around for 20 years. And they're great tools, right? They've withstood the test of time, and they've certainly evolved. But the big question is, why to date have they exclusively been asynchronous? Google Docs was released 10 years ago, Quip, in 2012. These aren't new concepts or technologies, but ultimately, if collaboration is fundamental to the way that we work, why isn't it part of how we work in all of these applications? So let's talk about how we make that happen. All right, so let's be honest. Content editing in a CMS has always lagged behind the needs and expectations of its users. It provides just enough to kind of get the job done, right? Back in the day, we used to write up the content in Word and then cut and paste it into a CMS. And while it made creating content a lot easier, there were lots of problems with markup, and formatting in the CMS. So we wound up creating all these great editors, which, like CK Editor, which is the default in Drupal, to help with the layout issues. But nowadays, people tend to use things like Google Docs or similar tools to collaborate, then cut and paste into the CMS. But it has similar problems to Word did 15 years ago in terms of formatting. So using lots of tools, they're using tools, and other tools aren't bad. A CMS can't do everything, and it shouldn't. But content creation is a core component of any content management system. But no CMS on the market works the way that our teams do, collaboratively. So that's until now. Let's talk about some of the changing status quo and how we make that happen. So there are a few things that we need for efficient collaboration, and it's both a human and computer problem. It requires integrating new UI UX constructs as well as computer algorithms. So in order to collaborate online, it's not just about the tools we use, but different ways in which they all work. So there are three core components of this that I want to talk about. And the first one is presence and awareness. To efficiently work with other people, applications need to provide presence and awareness. And that's basically just information that indicates each user's current availability and status in real time or near real time. So, some examples are like Slack. I can see if you're online or not. I can see if you have notification snooze or if you're in a Slack call. Even some chat applications, not Slack, will tell you whether or not your messages have been read. Zoom, on the other hand, has a high degree of presence awareness. So it's not only synchronous, and you can see people that are sharing a video, but who's talking, and if they pause, then you can interject. What's interesting to note about Zoom and video conferencing is that when I can see and hear you, I can pick up your tone and your intonation, facial expressions, all the classical nonverbal communication that I don't get through other mediums. Google Docs, similarly, good presence and awareness. I can see who's in my document, if you're active, you're passive, where you are. I can work around you and with you, sometimes like a little bit of a poltergeist or a ghost, randomly changing things, but at least you can see what I'm typing and editing or suggesting. With tools like Jira and Trello on the other end of the spectrum, though, I can't see what you're doing until you've actually done them and submitted it. So if two of us are editing, say, a description field in a Jira ticket, the first person that gets that lock on it gets to edit it and save it, but the second person, while they can edit it, their changes won't be saved, and it actually doesn't even give me error messages. So, and it's similarly with other kinds of cards on a board like Trello. Two people edit the same thing at the same time, it's going to fail. So there are hiccups and friction. Sometimes because of this lack of presence awareness, you don't have, it can be frustrating. You can lose data, and ultimately you wind up duplicating work. Another big component of good collaboration is change management. So we need editorial workflow to facilitate collaborative content creation process. You've all used tools like Google, and you're familiar with the concepts, so I'm not going to go over these. But with these features that you see on the screen right now, distributed content really, without these features, distributed content can't work very well at all. And the third component is computer algorithms. One of the reasons why applications don't have synchronous real-time collaboration capabilities is that the underlying technology is very complicated and it's very difficult, and it makes it cost prohibitive and time consuming to try to put this in every single application. We don't want to get too much into the weeds on this, but it's important to just mention it. Think about if several people are typing in a document. Presence awareness really helps avoid some conflict, but there has to be some kind of underlying computer algorithms to ensure multiple people working and making changes at the same time don't result in a complete mess. Imagine what happens when your internet connection is laggy or slow, or maybe you're working offline. How do you track everything that everyone is doing in those varying states? So it requires a lot of academic expertise and experience, which is more Fabian's bag, and implementing the right algorithms. And two of the ones that are the most popular and effective are ones that I have up on the screen right now: CRTs and OT, conflict-free replicated data types, and operational transformation. That's all we're going to talk about for me on this. Another factor in collaborating is just orchestrating things. We'll get to some more of this later in Fabian's slide, but collaborative content creation requires that peers talk to each other, right, in real time. So you can do this in client server or in peer-to-peer. Either way, the technology in CMSs these days, tools like PHP aren't ideal for this type of work. Why would we build all of these requirements in each application when I could just basically create a framework for it? So to solve all these challenges that we've talked about and provide the necessary tooling, we've turned to YJS Real-Time Collaboration Framework. So we've been working on a project for a top 10 Fortune 500 company and collaborative content creation as part of an application. And this was identified as a critical feature for them and for us. We did a lot of research and analysis and identified YJS as the best solution for our needs. It's open source. It's MIT license, which was a must-have for the client and is very important to us because that is the way that we do business. It's a framework for making any application, YJS that is a framework for making any application collaborative as long as it has structured data. Content creation was a short-term goal for this particular project, but whiteboarding and diagramming, layout building, theming, every aspect of a CMS is planned to be collaborative. So YJS provided much of the tools that we needed, support for presence awareness, editorial workflow, etc. And another key component was that the YJS creator, Kevin Jans, was willing to partner with us at Tag One. So working together, we enhanced the YJS framework to build out its capabilities and tooling, and integrating it with Drupal using ProseMirror as our editor. While YJS, ProseMirror, and Drupal are all open source, the YJS framework enhancements and the YJS enhancements are also open source. The Drupal integration is not, at least not yet, but we can demo it. So if anyone's been to our booth, you've probably seen this already, so bear with us as we go. If you watch this little quick video again to show you Prose Mirror Editor integrated with Drupal to enable multiple authors to collaborate on creating content. And with that, once you watch this video, I'm going to hand this over to Fabian to dive much more into the details.
YJS is a powerful, open source, real-time shared editing framework that enables developers to easily add collaborative capabilities to any type of application. The framework provides a robust and mature set of features, enabling content creators to coordinate efforts and work effectively and efficiently in real time. You can leverage the existing functionality and user experience or create your own custom capabilities. YJS enables you to see who is working with you on a document, with support for usernames, profile pictures, and other information, and see which users are actively working on the document and who is passive. Each user is represented using a different color, and shared cursors enable you to see where the other users are in the document, as well as any text users have highlighted. All changes are shown across peers in real time. Updates are immediately propagated with no waiting or delays. Snapshots, or version histories of the document, can be manually saved by users or automatically saved at defined intervals. You can view the differences between versions, see which users made changes, and revert to any version of the document history. You can choose how you implement any feature with YJS. In this example, users can only undo or redo content they individually created, without affecting the simultaneous edits or changes made by other users. An integral part of collaborative editing is the ability for users to associate comments and feedback with content in a document. Users can highlight any type of content and leave a comment or feedback for other users. Users can reply to or remove the comments. YJS is highly tuned for shared editing of rich text documents, with existing plugins supporting many popular editors, including Prose Mirror, Code Mirror, Ace, Quill, Monaco, and Gutenberg. Through its modular architecture, you can create your own plugins to support any editor. Check out the YJS GitHub page for the latest developments. If you have questions or need help and support building your application, free support is available for open source development and contributions via the YJS community forums. Commercial support and consulting services are also available. Please contact us at yjs@tag1.com for more information.
All right, let me hand this over.
Yeah, hi there. So let me share the right Brave tab. Okay, yep, screen is there. Perfect, and we are ready. So how does that all even work? Peter talked a little bit about CRTs. Everyone can hear me, I can assume. Else, please write in the chat. What the heck is even a CRT? It's a conflict-free replicate data type. I don't know what a conflict-free replicate data type means. So let's do a very, very little example. Text editors work basically like this. We insert an H at position 15. And then the next time, like if you're writing hello, then we insert an H at position 16, and then the L and L at position 17, etc. And CRTs work like this. And that's basically what OT is. Insert an H after object with ID 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What those IDs means, we go into way more detail in our deep dives. Too much for this talk. So as it's still very complex, here's an analog, New York, New York. Would you rather have the following instructions? Go 3 blocks left, then 2 blocks up, then 4 blocks right, then etc., and you've got no navigation so that it would update it, but you just have this instructions once, and if you go bad, then you need to go back and forth, etc., or just go to 271 Bleecker Street, New York. Yeah, Bleecker Street, New York, of course. Why? Why that? Apparently they have the best Neapolitan pizza, at least I heard. So YJS gives us this common data types. And again, back to the example a little bit, if you have an address, it will never change. But if you have a position and the position changes, then like with the navigation, like Google Maps and whatever, we need to always change. Once we've been through several streets, then instructions can be completely different. Turn left now, then you turn left, and now it's turn straight, etc. But then you drive wrong because there's construction work, etc., and then the navigation is completely changed. And that's basically OT. It's like the navigation that always changes, and CRDT, you always know where everything is. Each character, you have a perfect address for them. And I definitely prefer having this object-based approach because it also makes it much more simple for me to understand that. But now, quickly here, YJS, what does it give us? It gives us CRDTs on common data types. So the to-do list is like the most common example ever for Vue.js, React, Svelte, Alpine, whatever. It's basically the new hello world in the front-end world. And basically, you store this data in JavaScript array as it's an interactive app. If the array changes, to-do list changes as well. And now comes the magic part. You just put that in a Y array, connect that to a server, and it's automatically collaborative and real-time. And this really, for me, when I first realized what this means, is it's like magic. So basically, it's really as simple as that to make this to-do list real-time. The edits to the text are not, coming a little bit later to that, but and this ease of integration, I think this is the future of web applications that are collaborative and real-time right there. For rich text, however, and text is still pretty simple, but once you say this building is red, oh no, now it's blue, like bold, italic, etc., gets a little bit more complex. So we partnered with Kevin Jans, the author of YJS, as Peter already said, to bring YJS to Drupal as we love open source. And here, for me personally, a really exciting journey began to learn all about collaborative text editing, this OT, CRDT, etc. Just great. So, however, there have been some challenges for collaborative text editors, and we've tried to create one text to solve them all or improve YJS to do that. Summit already did. One of those challenges, and very important, is the personal underredo. So basically, if I'm working together with Peter on a document, I don't want to undo her changes, I just want to undo mine. So this is really, really important. And here's a quick future idea. If someone wants to get inspired, what would be really cool if a moderator could just take over for any person and just undo their changes on their behalf. In theory, CRDTs let you do that. No one has done that so far, but would be a cool feature. What's the real challenge about underredo? The real problem is you need to undo all the things. So you create a table, and then you undo the table. But in the meantime, someone has written text into the table. So what happens? And here you have several possibilities. You can, for example, say, hey, you can't undo that table creation unless that other person undoes that change, because there's already text and we would be losing that completely. So that's one example. But there's a huge thing that I learned about all of this. The perfect conflict resolution is not needed. And yes, Google Docs supports personal undo. That's like the undo you are using normally, because you're only undoing your own changes. I'm just trying to distinguish a little bit. But perfect conflict resolution is not needed because you don't need perfect conflict resolution. And the reason is Google Docs does not have it. Good enough is actually enough. And I was pretty shocked that the leader in collaborative docs that everyone is using is actually having pretty bad conflict resolution in the nitty-gritty edge cases. And everyone was thinking like, hey, you should be like perfect, and all the conflicts need to be resolved perfectly, and we need to think about all those edge cases and handle them. Nope, you don't. Google Docs doesn't do it. So if it's good enough for Google Docs, good enough for us. I did test cases. I paste a large Wikipedia document 7 times and underredo that several times. Google Docs really chokes on it. It takes 7 seconds and more later to just do this operation of undoing, redoing that. Then we had Quip by Salesforce, used by a client. This completely freezes. It's like you can crash the web application with it. Pasting a large document, underredo several times, crashing the document. Okay. And Quip, happily snappy. You can underredo as many times as you want. You can paste huge documents. I was impressed. And that was the moment where Kevin sold me personally on the technology, because we were still in the evaluation phase at that point. Another test case, nice, was break a paragraph in 2 and make it a list at the same time. So basically, and a variation of that is basically you indent something a little bit to the right, and then you create a list out of it and do several things like that. And if you have some fun with Google Docs offline mode, like a computer and a phone, where you go on flight mode and then you do some changes and then you sync back, you can have some real fun. Because you can actually get in a state where basically your text, your indentation stars or columns, like little blobs, are outside of the actual thing. And when I saw it in the application, I was like, okay, they probably didn't think about that edge case, and you just need to underredo it several times and it gets completely confused. So if it's good enough for Google Doc to be imperfect, it's definitely good enough for us. And the reason why we don't need this perfect conflict resolution is that the awareness already solves most conflict resolution problems, because users are very careful actually to not step on each other's toes, not first, toes. This is a really important thing, because we see each other, we see who's editing what at real time. We are not changing the same part at once, usually not, at least. And so that's a part here. But what about offline modes? I'm in an airplane in the sky. YJS can easily do it. You work on a document for full flight, you get back on the internet, it happily syncs it back, because YJS is actually offline first. So it works completely even offline. You could shelter for a year somewhere and just then come back and connect to the server, it would still sync it. Or another example, if the network connection between Americas and Europe broke, like internet cable, someone decided to cut it, then 2 teams could continue working in the silos and then sync back. So 2 teams could be working on their documents, and then in the end it could still merge 2 versions completely back. There's a little bit problem though. Automatic conflict resolution is tricky. They are perfectly correct mathematically, and yet it could make absolute no sense for human beings reading it. So that's still a challenge basically. But the future of that is we need tools to not only track the changes since you last viewed, but to also allow you to selectively apply them where you want them. And yes, this sounds a lot like Git, etc., like that. But CRTs are actually more advanced like Git, just to get that out the way. In that, because Prosumer actually internally has some Git-like collaboration mode, and we talk more in our webinars about that and podcasts. But this collaboration mode actually does not have like this offline capability, because it's not a perfect conflict resolution. It's more like reconciliation approach. And CRTs are a more scientifically sane approach, let's say like this. Yeah, and foundation for that would be there. You've seen the track changes before in the demo. But more work on it would need sponsors for the YJS project, or someone just working on it. But now what's probably most interesting to you is implementing this collaboration in Drupal. We talk about editors, workflows, revisions, and more. So how did we implement all of this? First of all, we need an editor selection. Fortunately, with YJS, we didn't need to reinvent the wheel. YJS supports so many editors. You've seen it before in the demo. CK4 is not one of them. Bad. So if your web application already uses Prosumer or Quill.js, you have said you can just hook up YJS and it will work. There's many, many examples on the YJS dev side. Someone already shared a link to the demo, basically on Prosumer with YJS. It works, it's great, it's cool. It's also not that complicated to do. What it does under the hood is basically it uses its own YXML fragment whenever any changes are coming over the network. It then compares it similar to like a virtual DOM to what has changed in the Prosumer and then selectively applies the changes. So it's basically a two-way synchronization. That's not interesting details. So we've gone on the journey to integrating first a modern editor into Drupal. Drupal's editor supports arbitrary HTML. The editor is fed with HTML, and the result is stored again as HTML. Modern editors, however, define a schema, editor is fed with JSON, and we store the result as JSON. So there's two ways to solve this. The first is a JavaScript-based way. You render everything client-side, you use JavaScript, and you use Node.js for server-side rendering and search indexing. That would be a perfect fit for decoupled applications. I want a more traditional approach, so we render the editor contents to a hidden text area. The text area contains JSON that includes an HTML key, so HTML and JSON, and the HTML is then the rendered HTML, like from the legacy editors. That made it very simple to integrate it, because we could basically just create a field formatter that returns the HTML part of the JSON. We just load the JSON part in the editor, and then export the rendered HTML and JSON from the editor back to the text area. So it's basically communicating through the same text area like usual. And that worked. Let's search API work out of the box. That's great. Yeah. So what about full HTML? I've heard that modern editors have problems with full HTML. So what do we do about that? You just don't use it. Because the schema clashes with full HTML support. At least that's the easiest way. But the other way is, even if you do it, use it sparingly, more like little snippets here and there, because usually if you give your editors the capability of using full HTML, it decreases accessibility a lot. And that's what we found out due to research of a huge document library for the client and checking them for accessibility problems. Create rich widgets for the editor of your choice instead. Gives the editors possibilities to use these widgets and to fill them with the data they need, and then they can integrate videos from whatever third-party service. They don't need to deal with snippets of inline scripts, etc., etc. Don't do it. But for legacy documents, the best way I found was to create a catch-all block type that displays a raw HTML as unformatted code in the editor. The nice thing is you could even have that with syntax highlighting if you integrate with Code Mirror. There's a nice demo, here's the link. But the biggest challenge we found over all of that was not technical, but it was philosophical. How do many users work in a system designed for a single user? So we need to integrate revisions, content workflow, and track changes all together in one workflow. How do you integrate that with multiple users? And who is actually owning these documents? And here's a little known fun fact. Wikipedia actually could have had simple text-based collaboration since years ago, but the philosophical challenges, not technical, have been preventing that so far. So really, they decided, hey, we have technology, we have a prototype, now we could start integrating that. And they were like on a conference from Wikimedia, and they were like, oh, but there are so many questions. What happens with the draft, and what happens with that, etc. Still unsolved problem till today. We designed for one technical solution. I don't say it's the best one, but that was the one we came up with. YJS has a full history embedded in its Y document, so all the track changes, it's all in one giant binary document. And we can access every state, every history ever written in this document by a state vector. So whenever we create a new revision, which is basically someone puts the publish button in Drupal, publishing a new revision, then we store not only the HTML and the JSON, but also the state vector. And that way we have a one-to-one mapping together with the YJS state and the Drupal state. And this is, at least in my experience, I found nothing when searching, a first in those systems that we are able to support the traditional Drupal revisions together with the collaborative model. And that was very, very key to all that. And then we just frequently save this large YJS document to some persistent storage, how to save all of Google Docs. Yeah, I said already revisions are mapped. And a revision might have multiple authors, which you find if you look into the Y document, but it's one person who published it. And saving and publishing is still an explicit operation. So compared to Google Docs, where basically you change something, it's immediately live and published, we still have a publishing step where you say, now I'm publishing this content, and now it's live on the website, or now it's a new draft, and now it goes through the workflow, or whatever. So what about several drafts of content like Git rashes? In theory, YJS can match those as its offline first practice. No one has tried yet. Garbage collection, open problem, but it's basically an organizational decision how to archive and prune, because it depends on the organization. Some need to keep everything for 10 years. Others can prune happily after months. More challenges, authentication and access control. How do you ensure your documents stay safe? And we decided for the most simple way, we just hash hmix an access token that's per entity UID. You have this entity UID, which is a secret hash per document. We combine that with a little timestamp. That's a more complex thing then. And then there's several tokens available at once. And then basically this hash, however, is how you address the document. If you have the hash, you have access. If you don't have the hash, you don't. So future work for authentication, and that is you need viewer-only access or commenter-only access. We need different hashes, a way to authenticate editors versus viewers. And that it's a little bit more complex, especially if you talk peer-to-peer. Lots of challenges still to solve. Speaking of comments, how do you implement comments? It's pretty simple once you've wrapped your head around how it works. You basically store comments not within the document, because that makes it impossible to ever implement good access control, but just as a selection on a portion of text outside of the document, out of band. So you can think of it like, there's construction work from 781 Fifth Avenue to 795 Fifth Avenue. All New Yorkers will now, hey, I know this address. The actual comment data is stored just as a normal comment in Drupal, and the selection only contains a reference to the comment entity ID. So that was the most simple way and most effective way to store comments, and that's what we did. How does infrastructure look like? There's two ways to integrate. One is the enterprise way. So you use Node.js with a Redis backend, persistent backing store like MySQL database, or could even be just a key value based thing like MongoDB. That's what we use for our enterprise client. And then there's a personal signaling server, WebRTC, peer-to-peer communication. No Node.js needed to add to your stock. That's so important. That's the solution that's being developed for WordPress. If you want to know more, here's the link. Right now, WordPress is ahead in the race. So if everyone wants to bring Drupal on par or start a core initiative to make that happen, contact us, watch our podcasts, and I'm very happy to share more and more details about it. And the WordPress Gutenberg demo already looks really impressive. So maybe Gutenberg in Drupal, or maybe Postman on Drupal. We'll see what happens. So let's take a look. So what you're seeing here is the working online demo of the proof of concept implementation of YJS integrated with Gutenberg and WordPress. We have two authors, they're collaborating peer-to-peer, and every user sees the other content in real time. Actually, YJS, if you don't hook it up to a server, open to browser windows, it just works. So the proof of concept was that YJS makes it really simple. Images, you see, they work. Blogs, they work. You can see text edited in real time. So there's not yet presence and awareness features. It was really just the very first prototype. And yeah, this is really cool. And there's, yeah, we are just watching this editor type more. And actually presence awareness, it's has come along since then. And we'll be talking about that in a moment, just enjoying the demo here some more. Okay, here we go. The demo is finished. But first about our prototype. The Gutenberg prototype was finished in less than 24 hours. Kevin Jan's completed integration in less than a day. That's a real nice achievement. And with a modern editor, integration of Vue.js is pretty easy. See for yourself. Here you can look at how it was integrated, first prototype in WordPress Gutenberg. Open source is eating the world. Anyone wants pizza? There's an even better implementation now by an automatic employee, former automatic employee. He added comments, awareness, user list, chat cursors. Here's some animated GIF and screenshots. We'll also be sharing a link to the demo later. And WordPress has actually collaboration on the roadmap. So Drupal needs to be really, really careful here because it's a first-class citizen. The goal of WordPress is to enable every WordPress instance, from tiniest shared hosting accounts to the largest enterprise, to support peer-to-peer real-time shared editing without sites installing any additional software. There are two components to achieving this: integrating WordPress Gutenberg with Vue.js and setting up an integrated peer-to-peer backend infrastructure. Without going into the details, peer-to-peer is so freaking hard. So we have a signaling server to even find other users, long poll or Ajax request or whatever. You need stun and turn to push hosts to firewalls and WebRTC to bring it all together. And many commercial voice or IP systems like Zoom still rely on relay servers. So hard problem to solve. But we will hopefully be working on it. I'm excited and we'll see if it happens, but I'm hopeful. So the possibilities are endless, basically. We think in the future, every application will offer collaboration. And we have the classic marketing cycle: rapid adoption, more effective collaboration, more robust, more adoption, etc. And in the CMS, shared editing, layout building, site building, enhanced features, whiteboarding, all those nice things. And in Drupal specifically, just imagine you're building a layout, a real-time layout builder, real-time text editing in Drupal, and real-time admin notifications. How nice would it be? Peter has edited blog post, whatever. So has published this, and we could have all that. We could see who else is online. Our whole Drupal instance could be one hub of collaboration. The problem is, in Drupal so far, the options have been Firebase, that's commercial, very costly, etc. And Node.js with general support since Drupal 7. We've implemented once as well. It's complicated, and we need to, again, add Node.js to the stack. But with peer-to-peer support, if it comes, if it's stable, if it works, if you have Signal server, we could really have all of these visions for the whole of Drupal, not only for the editor, but really, I've changed content, I get a notification. There's a new comment to moderate. Really, how your phone works, push notifications, all of those nice things. And this is a completely new way to think, completely combinable with the new admin experience that everyone is working on for Drupal, all of that. So let's make the future of web applications happen. It has already started. Some questions we could take now. We are over time, but we'll still take some questions.
So a couple of quick ones.
There was a question, I think Drupal is really good at semantically stop rank content. WordPress is good at simple semantically weak content. Are you suggesting that we should put all the semantics in the body? No. I'm talking about a fully collaborative node form, like paragraphs collaborative, like structured content collaborative, like that. You're not only seeing one text editor, but basically all the fields are text editors, and they are still the same structured content as before. I think real-time collaboration should be tackled at the entity level, not the HTML block. Yes, definitely. How would peer-to-peer connection be facilitated on network level? Someone needs an open port of your server to get it going, right? Yeah, first of all, you need to find people. So basically, you need your Drupal site to have like a who's online thing, and then it's a long poll or Ajax polling. You're just saying, hey, those are the people, IPs that are online. And then basically they can start finding each other via these various mechanisms. We'll be sharing the slides at the end. Contrib Drupal project on that. Unfortunately, now we've not been able to publish things, but we hope by sharing how we did it, we can do a lot of that. Okay, CK5, does it work with Vue.js? No, it doesn't. CK5 has its own commercial support for that, and they want their commercial, and so that's it. Does it work across all field types? This is right now mostly focused on text areas, but if we want it really integrated with Drupal, we need to make it work on structured things. How do you handle the fact that the vision up for the whole entity whereas the Vue.js part handle only one field? Yeah, that's an interesting point. Basically, I think with structured content, we need to have all those fields in the Vue.js document. So while from Drupal, it's several fields, from Vue.js perspective, it would still be one document, one entity like that. That's also similar, because in the end, it's still a tree structure, basically. It's just several text editors at once. Could this work with the Gutenberg for Drupal contrib module? It probably could. We've not tried it, but yeah, someone could take the proof of concept for Gutenberg and then just put it into the Drupal version of the Gutenberg module and then see if it works. I mean, it's just a build. You build it yourself and then it should be working. Do we have a roadmap going forward to support Vue.js within Drupal? Not right now. We are working on it. We still hope that we can open source some parts of it, but it's a pretty hard process. But basically, our first step is to give you all the vision in that. I can tell you this field formatter and those things, they are pretty simple, right? And I have heard from some participant earlier that they have Prothmer with Drupal integrated. So there might be something out there for Prothmer already, and if we have Prothmer, the rest should be pretty simple. But yeah, we can do a lot.
I think we covered all the questions. If we didn't catch someone, can you retype it?
That would be all questions. So thank you very much. Sorry for going over a little bit, and hope you had fun and have a great con.
Thanks, everyone.